skeletal system right now. So what we learned about the skeletal system is that this is a system which is made up of about 206 bones and cartilages. There are so many muscles that are also attached to the system, and the function of this system is basically to support our body and form the framework of the body. It forms the framework of the body, meaning that it will be giving the shape to the body, and it provides the vital organs of our body, right? Then we learned about terms like limbs, bones, and joints. So limbs basically refers to arms or legs of an animal. Bones, they are the hard white structures which are below our skin and protects our internal organs. Okay, bones themselves, they are incapable of bending. Okay, now bones will be bending wherever there will be joints, but they themselves, they are unable to move. It will be due to the action of muscles and other tissues that the bones will be moving. Like see, this and this. Will these bones be able to move themselves?
No, sir.
No. So they will be able to move with the help of the muscles. Okay, now. So it's the
Yes, sir.
muscles that will be helping the bones to move. Okay. Then we did learn about terms like joints. They are defined as the points in our body where two bones will be fitted into each other. There will be different kind of joints which we'll be learning later on, like the joint in our neck is different. The joint in our knee is different. The joint in our ankle is different. So when we look at these points in our body, like the joint in the neck, in the shoulder, in our wrist, in our elbow, in our knee, okay, now. So there are different kind of joints in our body. We'll be learning about that. But the thing is that at joints, two or more than two bones will be fitted into each other. Like here you can see, it's a ball and socket joint. Okay, now it's a ball and socket joint. Similar to that, there are different kind of joints, pivot joint, hinge joint. All of that we'll be discussing in the class. Then we did learn about terms like ligaments. Let us get to know. Let me see if you guys have memorized these terms in the previous class. What is the function of ligament? Yes. Let us, Salman, you answer first. What is the function of ligament? Yeah, Salman, you there in the class? Guys, am I not
Yes, sir.
audible? Am I not audible?
Sir, you are.
Huh. Okay, answer the function of ligament. What is the function performed by the ligament? Okay, in the previous class, I did told you
Sir,
guys
they
about this.
makes the
Hmm.
make the
Sir, hold structures together and keep them stable.
Hmm. It holds the bone together. Okay, now it connects the two bones together. Okay,
yes.
and they are elastic and they are very strong. Okay, now. Okay, what about cartilages? Yeah, what about cartilages? You can take the help of this diagram.
Protectors, protectors, your joints and bones.
Hmm. So it protects the bones from rubbing into each other and from protects them from damage, and also acts as shock absorber. So it absorbs the shock also. Very good. Okay, we will be continuing from tendon. We did learn about tendon that it is a cord of a strong flexible tissue. By the way, one more question. You guys tell me, other than this here, other than this part, where in the human body cartilages are found, apart from this place, apart from the ending of the bone, like where are cartilages found in our body? Like we can look at our face. Yeah, where the nose bone ends now, where the nose bone will be ending, there the cartilage is present. So this is, what is this? This is cartilage. Getting it, guys? So their cartilage is also present. Okay. In fact, it is also present in our ears also. Getting it, guys? So cartilage, it's a strong, flexible connective tissue that protects your joints and bones and it also acts as a shock absorber throughout your body. Cartilage at the end of your bones reduces friction and prevents them from rubbing together when you use your joints. So as you guys can see here, let me just highlight this part here. Just 1 minute. Yeah, this part over here, the one that you can see. This is the cartilage, and see how it is present at the ending of the bones. So it will be preventing our bone from rear and tear. Okay, now wear and tear. Getting it? So the bones, if the cartilages were not present, the bones will be rubbing into each other, and over time, what will happen now? That due to friction, the bones will become weaker. Also, you see that in the ear also, this cartilage is present. Also, this is much softer as compared to this one. Okay, and the cartilage present in the ear and the nose, they are much softer as compared to the cartilage present over here. So what we were learning about the tendons now, it's a strong flexible tissue similar to a rope. It will be connecting your muscle to your bones. Like you can see here, a muscle is connected to the bone with the help of this tendon. Got this, Halima and Suleiman?
Yes, sir.
You can look at some other parts of the body also
Yes, sir.
where it is present. So that is tendon. Okay. Also, furthermore, what we know about the functioning of the cartilage and the muscles now, like muscles will always be working in pairs and they will carry out contraction and relaxation. Meaning that when we look at the muscles, so for example, here, look at these two muscles. The one is bicep and the another one is triceps. So, say when you are stretching out your hand like this, when we stretch out our hand like this, so the bicep muscles are relaxed. Right now, you guys can do this in the class right now. Like just stretch out your hand and touch your biceps, so it will be relaxed. While when you touch your triceps, it will be contracted. Getting it? You can observe it from this, like when you will be stretching out your hand, like stretch out your hand as shown in the diagram. So when you look at the size of the biceps, it will be lesser. So just a common observation, you can observe this. But when you uh, when you bring your hand like this, okay, now when you bring your arm like this, so there you observe that the biceps will be contracted, and it can be observed from this that the size of the biceps will increase. While at this time, what happens? The triceps are relaxed. So we are able to do movement. We are able to move the hands in our bones with the help of these two muscles. So we'll be able to move our bones here, our bones in the hand only with the help of two muscles. Okay, now at least two muscles are required to move the bones. One of them will be relaxing, another one will be contracting. So muscles will always be working in pairs. They can be pairs of one, they can be multiple pairs of muscles working together also. Getting it what I'm trying to say?
Yes, sir.
Halima, you getting it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that is the case about this muscle. Only you guys are there in the class, others haven't joined yet, no?
Yes.
Okay, okay. So do tell me again, like while our hand was stretched out, so at that time, the biceps, they were relaxed or they were contracted.
So they will be relaxed.
Okay. And what about the triceps? They were
Be contracted.
okay. So they will be contracted while biceps they are relaxed. So whenever movement will be taking place, at least one of them will be relaxing, other one will be contracting. That's how we'll be able to do movement. That's how we'll be able to do movement between the two bones. Right now. So here are the bones themselves moving, or are they moving with the help of muscles? Yeah. Are the bones themselves moving here? No, they are moving only with the help of muscles now. Like there are two bones, like there are different bones in our arms, like the one over here and the other one here. So these bones are not moving themselves, but with the help of these pairs of muscles. Okay, and that is one important thing. Okay, you guys answer this question, then we'll be continuing forward. Yeah, you guys can answer in the class only. Okay, no? Question number 1 and 2.
Yes, sir.
Hmm. The bones in our body also forms a framework to give shape to our body. This framework is called as what? What do we call this framework?
Hmm.
Yes, Salman and Halima.
Sir, framework means uh
Like a framework, like when a building is constructed, so the framework of the building is done first. The
yes.
pillars are inserted
Sir,
into the ground.
it is fine.
No, not the spine.
Uh, skeleton.
Skeleton. Okay, now that is a skeleton.
Hmm.
Getting it. So, for example, you have a building like this. So, first of all, we have to ready the framework of the building now. Like we'll be using the iron or steel beams, huh, to raise a framework first of all, and then
Skeleton.
the bricks and other things will be fitted into it. So that's the skeleton. Okay,
Sir,
now
Yes.
yes,
first one is skeleton.
yeah, and the second one, the skeletal
Sir,
system. Skeletal
uh,
system. Just take a look at it. Like this is the skeletal system here. This is your skeletal system. Okay, now that is your skeletal system. Okay, continue here.
sir, is it uh, sir, is it B?
No, how can it be B?
No, sir. I said D.
D. Okay, let's
Yeah.
see what Salman has to say. Yes, Salman. Yeah, what is the skeletal system made up of? D1, no? Bones and cartilage is very good. Okay, now like bones are present there and cartilages would be joining the two bones. Two bones will be joined with the help of cartilages. Like this is a cartilage that will be joining these bones here. Good. Okay, this question will be doing later on. Okay. Now let us jump to this topic of joints. Okay. So talking about joints, joints are the points where two parts of the skeleton are fitted together to make movement possible. Okay, now so joints would be possible in different places in our body where the two or more than two bones will be fitted into each other. So wherever two bones would be fitted, their movement will be possible. But let us say that at this place, will movement be possible at this place? Let me highlight this. Yes, will movement be possible at this place? Yeah. Are we able to move this part of this bone here?
No, sir.
No. Why? Because there is no joint here. Okay, na? Since there isn't any joint there, so movement will not be possible. So movement in our body is possible at those places only wherever joints are there. Some of the examples of the joints are hip joint, elbow joint, knee joint, etc. There are many more which we'll be learning. Okay. So hope that this much should be clear. Let us learn about the pivot joint first of all. Okay. So pivot joint is a joint that will be rotating. Examples of the pivot joint in the body are in the neck that will allow the head to rotate. and also one between the radius and ulna that allow forearm rotation. Let me show what I mean to say. Like, have a look at this image here. Okay, so the pivot joint is the joint that will be rotating. Okay, now like wherever rotation will be possible, there the pivot joint will be present. Getting my point? What I'm trying to say? So it is present in the kind of joint present in the neck is called as pivot joint. Getting it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Halima, you understood this now? Okay, so that is the pivot joint.
Yes.
Okay, so you can understand it in this manner. Let me just draw one. Just look at this diagram here. So like this over here, what you see, like this a cylinder shaped bone here. This one over here, there is this cylinder shaped bone that is able to move within this ring formed by another bone here. Like there is this bone, and this one is a cylinder shape cylinder shaped bone. So this cylinder shaped bone is able to move within this ring shaped bone. Okay, now within this ring shaped bone, right? And the degree of rotation would be limited here. Getting it? It might be limited. For example, in the case of the pivot joint in our neck, we are not able to do a 360-degree movement. Getting it, guys? You're not able to do 360-degree movement here. The movement is restricted to some degree. Like if the neck joint were to do 360-degree movement, the person will be not alive. The person will simply die. Okay, now that is one thing. Furthermore, this pivot joint is also present here between the radius and ulna that allows the forearm rotation. Okay, so let us look at the forearm also. So where is forearm in this? Yes, forearm, it is here now. Forearm
Yes,
over
sir.
here, right now. Okay, so forearm basically it is the region between this here. Let me just zoom it over here. I'm talking to this part over here. Okay, now. So here also we are able to rotate it. Okay, here we are also able to do, like, just try to rotate your wrist. You will be able to rotate your wrist. Getting it, guys? You will be able to do a rotation in your wrist also. So there also the pivot joint is present, where a cylindrical shaped bone will be moving in another ring shaped bone. So that is the case of the pivot joint here. Hope it is clear. Then you have another kind of joint called as hinge joint. When bones can move along one axis, thereby it will be the case of hinge joint. Let us look at this here. For example, in this case, you will be able to move your hand in this direction, in this much only. Let us say that this is your hand. This is our hand. Let us say. Okay. So how much movement will be possible? We'll be able to move it this much, and we'll be able to move it this much only. Meaning that
Yes, sir.
I will be able to move it this much only now.
Yes, sir.
Got this one. So talking about the hinge joint, what we get to see in this case, that it's a type of joint when bone will be able to move along one axis only. It will be able to move along one axis only. So that is the case of the hinge joint. So it can either move this much or this much in one axis here. Okay. Where is it present? It is present in the in this over here, in our elbow. Furthermore, in the case of the knee also. So you guys just take a look at your knee, for example. So if you were to look at the case of the knee, let us say that this is our knee here, knee joint over here, and let us say that this is our leg. Okay, I'm trying to draw it, but just 1 minute. Okay, say that this is our leg and this is the knee joint. So how much of movement is possible? We can move our leg from here all the way to here. Like this much of movement is possible. Try to understand. Like you can move your legs in this manner. Okay, in this manner. Or what you can do, you can move your leg to this much only. Getting it, guys? So in the case of knee joint here, we also get to see that this is a hinge joint where the bones can move about only one axis. Here the bones are able to move in the one axis only. Okay. So it is allowing us our knee to bend. Like here you have bended your knee. You can bend your knee and you can straight your knee also here like this. Or here in the case of the hand also what we have seen that we can bend our hand like this. We can bend our hand like this. We can bend our hand and we can straighten our hand. So wherever hinge joint is present, we can bend our hand, or like here we can straighten our hand. Like here it is in the straightened position. Straightened position, or let us say if I were to raise the hand like this. So I am bending my hand now. Here it is in the bent position. Got this, both of you? And here when we look at the knee joint, so what I see that my leg here is in the straight position. But say if I were to sit here, if let us say where I'm sitting here, so I will be folding my legs behind like this. Try to understand, guys. Getting it, both of you, what I'm trying to say?
Yes, sir.
So that is the case about the hinge joint. It's a type of joint in our body that will allow for the bending and for straightening. So what we have seen so far in the case of hinge, that it will allow for bending and for straightening. The examples are in the case of our elbow and in the knee. Okay, now elbow, knee, and there are some other joints also where it is present. Okay, if there's any question in it, please let me know. Next type of joint, we are going to look at the ball and the socket joint. So far, we had learned about the pivot joint and the hinge joint, and now let us look at the ball and socket joint. So in the ball and socket joint, what we see that there's a partial spherical structure that you guys can see over here. See, you guys understand what is a sphere now? Like just take a cricket ball.
Yes, sir.
And cut it into half. So then like this ball has a spherical shape. A complete ball is a sphere, but if I were to cut into two half, each part will be called as a hemisphere. Hemisphere. Hemi here actually means half. What does hemi mean? It means half. So when you cut this sphere into two halves, so each half will be called as hemisphere. So here you have this hemispherical structure which is present inside a socket. Like this is a ball like a structure. I mean to say this one over here. Just 1 minute. Yeah. So what are we seeing that? Here you have this hemisphere. And here you have this socket. Here we have this socket. So this hemisphere, basically a ball-like structure, is fitted into this socket, and where the movement will be possible. What kind of movement will be possible? You can take help from this. Like the movement will be able to do movement in this direction. We can rotate it in this direction. We can rotate it forward and backward. Okay, and we can rotate in this manner as well. So that is the case of the ball and socket joint. So where you have a partial spherical structure which is present inside a socket, which will be allowing movement in almost all the directions. So movement here is possible in all the directions. Movement in all direction is possible in the case of ball and socket joint. So it is present here in the present in our pelvic area as well. Okay, like in our hip, and it is present in our arms also. Okay, it is present in our arms also. So is this much clear about the ball and socket joint so far? What we have learned here, this is a joint present in such a place in our body where a hemispherical bone will be fitted inside a socket, and where all the where movement in all direction will be possible. So that is what a ball and socket joint is. One of the structure represents a structure. One of the bone will be having a shape similar to that of a ball, but that will be hemispherical ball like a structure. Another one is a socket in which it gets fitted, and movement will be possible in all the directions. Okay, now, so that is the case here. And where exactly it is present? So it is present in our in the hip. Here it is our hip. There it is present, and it is present in our shoulder joint also. It is present in the shoulder also. So what we have learned so far, guys? What we have learned here, that in the case of ball and socket joint, there's a partial spherical structure like this that is fitted in a socket like a structure. So this is another bone that is having a socket like a structure. So this acts as a socket, and this is the ball like a structure. So this ball like a structure gets fitted into the socket, which will be allowing movement in all the directions. So examples are hips and arms. So basically in arms, it is in the shoulder. It is in the shoulder. Is that much clear so far?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What do you guys
Yes.
mean by this ball and socket joint? Explain this. What did you understood from this? Yes. The ball and socket joint, what we have learned in this case. Yes, yes, Halima and Salman, what we have learned here, there's a partial spherical structure which is fitted into another bone which acts as a socket, and movement will be possible in all the directions. Okay, where we get to see it is like you can move this bone in all the directions now. Like you can move your upper bone, you can move this bone called as femur bone in almost all the directions. You can rotate it, you can move it forward and backward. In fact, you can rotate your hand also like this. You can rotate your hand like this, and you can bring it forward and the backwards. So this kind of joint is present in the shoulder and in the hip area. So that is all about the different type of joints we have studied so far. If there's any question in it, please let me know. Yes. So far what we have learned, that movement will be possible in these kind of joints. But when we look at some other areas in our body, like in our skull, like there are different fragments out of which our skull is made. And movement will not be possible between these fragments of bones. Will these two bones will be moving? No. If they were to move, so thereby it means that our brain will be damaged. Okay, now. So the kind of joint present in our skull is fixed where movement is not possible. So the example of a fixed joint in our body is in the case of the skull. While other examples which we have studied so far were that of ball and socket joint, pivot joint, and the hinge joint. Ball and socket joint will be present in our hip and in our arms also. Hinge joint will be present in the elbow and the knee. Okay. while pivot joint will be present in the our arm, okay, in our neck. Just take a look at this video that will clarify some of your doubts.
Earlier we saw that the hinge joint present in our elbow moves only in.
So what you're seeing here, you're able to bend your hand and you're able to stretch out your hand. Getting it, Salman and Halima? That was the case of the hinge joint, where you can see that this girl is bending her hand and straightening out her hand as well.
We saw that the hinge joint present in our elbow moves only in one plane. This means the rotation of our forearm should be limited. But we can easily rotate our forearm. How is this possible? There is another joint present at the elbow which allows this rotation. It is the pivot joint. A pivot is a fixed point on which another structure rotates. A pivot joint is formed when a bone rotates in the cavity formed by other bones or ligaments. This joint is also present in the neck. The pivot joint between the first two bones of the neck allows you to move your neck from side to side. Can you visualize the neck movements because of the pivot joint? Can you explain it in your own words to your friends? Let's see how to make a model of this joint. You will need two plastic or PVC pipes, one bigger than the other, cutter, tape, glue, thread and scissors. Cut off a small piece of the bigger pipe. The cut off piece should be roughly of this size. Let's call this A and B. Tape B to A as shown. On the smaller pipe, wrap a thread along one end and secure it with glue. The end result should look like this. Put the smaller pipe into B. Here you have a simple model of a pivot joint. This twisting action has two movements of bones. Prone, that is, when the palm faces downwards. In this motion, one bone twists over the other. Supine, that is, when the palm is facing upwards. Here, the bone goes back to the resting position. Pivot joints are also used in machines where parts rotate in one plane about a point. A simple example of pivoting movement is the rotation of the hands of a clock. The chain of a cycle is a very familiar example of multiple pivot joints put together. Challenge time. Now look around and find other examples of pivot.
Okay, so as you guys went through this video, do tell me, is the pivot joint clear to you guys? The pivot joint which we have learned, where we got to saw that this type of joint is present in that part of the body where we'll be able to do some sort of a rotation. That rotation not be a 360-degree rotation, but we'll be able to rotate the bones. What was the structure there? We had a bone like this. There could be bones like this, and there would be some cartilaginous structure over here. Okay, there would be some cartilaginous structure over here, and there will be another bone that will go into this and will be able to do movement. You'll be able to do movement. That we learned, and we had the example in the case of our neck. Getting it, guys? The example was in the case of the neck, and it was in the case of our forearm also. And we had some applications also. We had some applications of this. Let us just go through this here. Like in this case, what we see here, there is this bone here that is fitted into a cavity Okay, there's a cavity, there's an empty space into which this bone is being fitted here. And this bone will be doing rotation, because of which we'll be able to rotate our hand or our necks.
This joint is also present in the neck. The pivot joint between the first two bones of the
This
neck
this was the model of the pivot joint in the neck here. Okay, now.
allows you to move your neck from side to side.
So we are not able to do a 360-degree movement. We are able to move our neck only side by side. Okay, now.
Can you visualize the neck movements because of the pivot joint? Can you explain it in your own words to your friends? Let's see how to make a model of this joint. You will need two plastic or PVC pipes, one bigger than the other, cutter, tape, glue, thread and scissors. Cut off a small piece of the bigger pipe. The cut off piece should be roughly of this size. Let's call this A and B. Tape B to A as shown. On the smaller pipe, wrap a thread along one end and secure it with glue. The end result should look like this. Put the smaller pipe into B. Here you have a simple model of a pivot joint. This twisting action has two movements of bones. Prone, that is, when the palm faces downwards. In this motion, one bone twists over the other. Supine, that is, when the palm is facing upwards. Here, the bone goes back to the resting position. Pivot joints are also used in machines where parts rotate in one plane about a point. A simple example of pivoting movement is the rotation of the hands of a clock. The chain of a cycle is a very familiar example of multiple pivot joints put together. Challenge time. Now look around and
Okay. So that was a video which explained about the mechanism of the pivot joint. Okay, now, and how we can also make a pivot joint of our own with using some simple pipes. We can also make a pivot joint. Okay, now. So hope it should be clear to you, Halima and Salman.
Yes, sir.
Okay, before continuing further, you guys answer some questions to me. Do tell me where in our body pivot joint is present. Where the pivot joints are present in our body. Yes, it is present in our yes, Halima and Salman. The pivot joint is present in our neck, no? Right? So it is present in our neck. And where else it is present? It is present in our arms also. So where we had learned about the pivot joint, that bone will be rotating, like it will be allowing the bone to rotate about one axis. Okay, now about one axis, it will be able to rotate the bone. The examples are in the case of the neck. In the case of our hand also. Then we did learn about the case of the hinge joint. In the case of hinge joint, what we had learned that it will allow very limited movement to the bones. Okay, it is present in our elbow and in our knee joint also, where we would be able to bend the bones and will be able to straighten that joint. We'll be able to do bending and will be able to straighten out the bones. That is one thing. In the case of ball and socket joint, what we have learned, like in the case of socket, we learned that it's kind of a cavity where a plug can be attached. Just like we attach the plug into the board, so in the similar manner, this ball-shaped bone will be is attached into this cavity. Okay, na? That is one thing. And these joints will allow the movement of bones in all the directions. So we have the example of the connection of the hip joint. This is the hip joint. This is the hip, and this is the femur bone. This is the leg bone. So the joint where the connection of the hip and the thigh bones is an example of ball and socket joint, and we have the example of the shoulder also. So that was all about the different kind of joints. Okay, where in our body is fixed joint present? Yes, where in the body fixed joints are present? Yes, Salman? In the skull, fixed joints are found. Okay, now in the skull, fixed joints are found. Here is another diagram showing the pivotal joint or the pivot joint. Many times we use the word pivotal also. So we had learned this in here. One of the bone is tapped into the another bone. Okay, in such a way that full rotation is not possible. Only sideways movement is possible. Okay. Then we had this example of the hinge joint, a more here what we get to see that the kind of movement that is possible here is limited. You can think of the hinge joints similar to that of the door hinges, where you can move the door back and forth only. Right now, just think of this as the same in the case of the door hinges. You'll be able to move the door back and forth only. Right now. So examples of hinge joints in the body were in the ankle, in the elbow, and in the knee joints. Okay, that is one thing. And in the case of the some other joints, like in the case of the gliding joints. So what do we observe in the case of the gliding joints? That here also the movement will be restricted. Like if you were to look at the joint present in our foot, the movement will be possible in this manner only. Like you can do a restricted upward and downward movement, and you can do a restricted sideways movement in the gliding joint. Getting it? You can do a restricted movement in the case of the sliding joint. And where in our body sliding joint is present? To say gliding joint. So it is present in our ankles, as you can see here, in the ankles, and in our wrist also. This gliding joint is present. Okay, now also these gliding joints, they are called as plane joints also. They are known by the name of plane joints also. Okay, because the bone moves across their plane of plane of plane of connection. Okay, so they are the bones that are made. They are the joints that are made up of two bones that will be meeting on a particular flat surface, and will allow them to glide past one another, move past one another in sideways and in up and down movement. The gliding joint, also called as a plane joint or planar joint, is a joint made up of two bones that meets on a flat or nearly flat surface. It allows the bones to glide past one another in any direction along the joint plane, including up and down, right and left, and diagonally. Okay, like for example, I can move my hand in this manner, and even in the diagonal manner also. That is the case of the gliding joint. It learned up the ball and socket joint. Here you can see this is the ball and socket joint present in our shoulder, where you can perfectly see that this bone representing a ball like a structure, a spherical structure, is fitted into this cavity. Okay, now which will be acting as a socket. So this is fitted into the cavity, and here also movement in all directions will be possible. And this is the diagram showing the joint between our hip and the thigh bone. So that was the case of this. Then we're learning about the fixed joint, where we get to see that our skull is made up of different fragments of bones, but movement between these fragments of bones is not possible. Okay, but the only movable bone present in our skull is the lower jaw. Only lower jaw will be able to do some movement because it shows some joint. There are two places from where it is joined, here and here. Okay. Now we are going to learn about, just 1 minute. Yeah. Let us learn about the different bones. Again, I will be starting our discussion first of all from the skull. Then later on we'll be learning about rib cage, and then we'll be learning about the hip bone, and later on we'll be learning about the limbs. Okay, Salman. So talking about the skull bone. So when we look at the skull bone, what do we observe in the case of the skull bone? That our skull is made up of several bones, right? In fact, skull is made up of fragments of bones which are attached at several places, and our skull would be basically, if you were to look at the bones of the skull, it can be categorized into three types. One part of the bones will be protecting our brain. Some of the bones will be forming our face. Okay, now some of them will be forming our face, and some of them will be forming the structure for the ear. Okay, now, in which the ear will be fitted. Getting it? In total, there are 22 bones in the skull. Talking about the skull, in total, there are about 22 bones in the skull of an average human. Okay. Function of the skull would be to provide support and it will be providing protection and support to the brain and to other organs like eye and ear and other things that are fitted into it. Okay. Also, we know that our brain is there in the upper part of the skull, and our brain also has got different parts: the cerebellum, and the hindbrain is there. Okay, now there are different parts of the brain also there. Getting it? So, how many bones are there in the skull? There are 22 bones. Talking about the function of the skull, its functions include provide protection and support. Provide protection and support. So it will be protecting the brain, protects the brain. Another important thing is that holds important organs with eye, ears, etc. Now, the only movable bone here is the only movable bone in the skull is the lower jaw. Only lower jaw is movable in the bone. Got this? Is this much clear? Now, the bones in our skull has been divided into two parts. First part of the bone is called as, the first category is called as cranial bones. Another one is called as the facial bones. So there are about 14 tiny bones that will make up our face. How many bones makes up our face? There are about 14 bones present in our face. Okay, now, hope you can see it over here. Like you can see it here. Like this is one fraction of the bone. There is this another fraction of the bone. So in total, there are about 14 fractions of the bones that makes up our face. And then there are about 8 cranial bones are there. That will be forming the upper part of the skull. Mainly, it will be protecting our brain. So that is all about the structure of the skull. Understood this?
Yes, sir.
How many bones are there in the skull? There are about how many bones in the skull? There are about 22 bones. Okay. How many of them are movable?
14.
Movable. In which movement will be possible? Only one. There's only one bone where movement is possible, and that is the lower jaw. Okay, now? What are the sensory organs that are present in our skull? The sensory organs that are held by this held by the skull, that is eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. Getting it now? Eyes, ear, nose, and mouth. These are the sensory organs that are held by the skull. Okay, and what does it contain? What is the main organ protected by the skull? That is simply the brain. So hope these basic things should be clear. Next, we have this cage-like structure called as rib cage. Okay, so first of all, let us understand about the structure of the rib cage. So talking about the structure of the rib cage, talking about the structure and the function both. So our rib cage is made up of 12 pairs of ribs. So the tiny bones that you see here, these tiny bones here that you see, these are called as ribs. And in total, there are about 12 pairs of ribs, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 2 in the back here. Like if you have another video, another footage here, you can see this over here. Okay, let us count from here. Like there are 2 hanging ribs also. Like count from here. 1, then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So in total, there are about 12 pairs of ribs present in our rib cage. So all these pairs of ribs would form a curve like a structure, and all of them will be attached to our backbone. Here, what you see, this is the backbone, also called as the spine. In fact, this is the back view where you get to see that all the ribs, now these are the rib bones. So all the ribs are attached to this backbone. Getting it now? So all these ribs are curved bones, and all of them would be attached to the backbone at the back. Okay, and at the front they are attached to this breastbone. We call this as the breastbone. Okay. Furthermore, when you look at these two bones here, no, like in the bottom of the rib cage, there are some floating bones also. Like there are bones that are not attached to the breastbone. Like only this much of bone is attached here to this breastbone. This is structure here that is being called as the breastbone. Salman, can you spot few bones are here in this diagram which are not attached to it? Like look at this one here. It is not attached to it. Okay, now? So there are 2 pairs, like this one here and this one here. So 2 pairs of bones are not attached to the breastbone. Okay, now? Breastbone, or by the way, this is also called as sternum. So 2 pairs of bones aren't attached to breastbone. Are not attached to the breastbone. Okay. So this was all about the structure of the rib cage. Okay, now? So how many bones are there in the rib cage? There are about 12 pairs of ribs are there. Okay, now? 12 pairs of ribs. So that amounts to 24 bones in the rib cage. There are 24 bones in the rib cage. Okay, now? So there are 12 pairs of ribs here. And in fact, this we can count this breastbone or this sternum also. Okay. So rib cage consists of these 24 ribs, which are attached to this long, flat bone, which is present in the center, and that is called the sternum or the backbone. And at the back, the ribs are attached to the backbone or the spine. Okay. So is that much clear so far? Answer
Yes,
this
sir.
question. Answer this question here. The ribs join the chest bone and the backbone to form a box called as
Durante.
Rib cage, no? Good. Okay. So that was it for today. Let us discuss few questions and then we'll be ending the class. To tell me, where is the pivot joint present in our body? The pivot joint, where is it present in our body? Give one example. The pivot joint was the joint where the movement, where rotation was possible, where you can rotate the bones. Yes, Salman, the pivot joint. We did learn about this, no? In the neck, it is present. The pivot joint is present in the neck. Okay. And what about the hinge joint? Where is the hinge joint present?